In a forgotten corner of town, there was a dusty antique shop brimming with strange artifacts. Milo, a curious teenager with a fascination for vintage electronics, frequented the shop, always in search of odd treasures. One day, he stumbled upon an old, cracked radio that seemed to be from the 1950s. It looked barely functional, but Milo loved the worn look of it. He bought it for a few bucks and took it home, ready to tinker with it. The radio's power switch was stubborn, and its dial was covered in dust, but Milo finally managed to get it running. As he turned the knob, he was met with static and faint voices in an unfamiliar language. Intrigued, he kept fiddling until he found a clear signal. Testing, testing. If anyone is out there, please respond. The voice was calm, measured, and distinctly unearthly. Milo's pulse quickened as he realized the voice didn't sound human. He leaned closer and whispered, "Hello." To his astonishment, the voice responded, "You're human. Fascinating. What? What are you?" Milo stammered, trying to keep his excitement and nerves in check. "I am Ishar, a researcher from the Trivax Collective, observing your world." Milo blinked. This was straight out of a science fiction novel. "You're an alien? How can I hear you through this radio?" "This device acts as a transdimensional receiver, modified to bridge the vast distance between our realms," Ishar explained. "Though I suspect you weren't aware of its capabilities." Milo shook his head, awestruck. "No, I just thought it was an old radio." "So, what are you observing?" The voice on the other end hesitated, then said, "We study timelines, the possibilities that flow and merge across realities. But our transmissions have an unintended side effect on those within your reality." Milo frowned, his mind racing. "A side effect? What kind?" "Changes, shifts," Ishar replied. "I would advise caution. Each message received here can warp your world in unpredictable ways." Intrigued and more than a little frightened, Milo hesitated. His finger hovered over the power button, but he couldn't bring himself to shut it off. Instead, he leaned in closer, whispering, "Like magic?" "Not quite. Think of it as a slight rearrangement of the fabric of your reality," said Ishar. Without thinking, Milo asked, "Could you show me?" Silence, then a sigh. "Very well. Describe something simple, and I shall demonstrate." Milo glanced around his room, spotting a worn-out plant on his desk. "Okay, can you make my plant healthier?" Ishar's voice hummed, almost thoughtfully. "Stand by." The radio crackled for a moment. Milo looked over at his plant, expecting nothing, and then gasped. Before his eyes, the drooping leaves perked up, gaining a rich, vibrant green. The stems straightened, and tiny buds appeared, blooming into small, bright flowers. Milo stared, wide-eyed. This was real. He had just witnessed something impossible. "Well, it worked," he breathed. "That was incredible." "This is but a minor alteration," Ishar said, as though to remind Milo of the gravity of their exchange. "But proceed with caution. Any alteration, however small, will have consequences." Over the next few days, Milo couldn't help himself. He tuned into the radio every chance he got, his conversations with Ishar growing bolder. He learned about the Trivaxians, a species with abilities far beyond human understanding. They existed outside the limitations of linear time, studying countless dimensions and realities as if flipping through the pages of a book. But despite Ishar's warnings, Milo made more small requests. He wished for his grades to improve, for his awkward stutter to vanish, for his worn-out bike to ride like new. Each time, Ishar's voice would hum through the static, and the desired change would take effect. At first, the changes were thrilling. Milo felt powerful, like he'd stumbled upon the ultimate life hack. But then, subtle strangeness crept into his world. The other students started treating him differently, their eyes distant, their smiles hollow. His teachers, once kindly and encouraging, now seemed cold and aloof. Even his parents acted odd, their personalities slightly off, as if they were going through the motions without really seeing him. One night, after yet another eerie day, Milo confronted Ishar through the radio. "What's happening to everyone around me? They're acting weird?" "Every reality is a web," Ishar explained, his voice calm as ever. "When you pull one thread, others shift to accommodate. Your world is adjusting to the changes you requested. But I didn't want them to change. Milo protested, his stomach knotting with dread. Can't you undo it? Ishar's response was chilling. Undoing changes is not as simple as making them. Once a timeline has diverged, it cannot be seamlessly returned to its previous state. Milo's heart sank. So, it's irreversibles? There may be one solution, Ishar said slowly, as though reluctant. But it would require a substantial sacrifice. What kind of sacrifice? Milo asked, though part of him was afraid to know. A reset, Ishar replied. To rewrite your timeline to its original state, you would need to sever all memories of our interactions, as well as any traces of the changes you've made. The version of you that made these choices will cease to exist. Milo froze, the weight of his actions crashing down on him. He would have to give up everything he'd gained, return to his old life with no knowledge of Ishar, no memory of his brush with alien forces. But seeing his friends, his family, his world shift further and further from reality was unbearable. Do it, he whispered. I don't want this anymore. For a moment, there was only silence. Then Ishar's voice softened, almost regretful. Very well, young human. Thank you for reminding me that there is more to your kind than curiosity and ambition. The radio crackled, the static growing louder, enveloping Milo in a warm hum. He felt himself drifting, his thoughts blurring, memories slipping away. Milo awoke in his room, blinking at the morning sunlight streaming through his window. He rubbed his eyes, feeling a strange emptiness he couldn't explain. Shaking off the fog, he spotted the old radio on his desk, gathering dust. A faint, inexplicable urge told him to switch it on, but he brushed it aside with a shrug, vaguely wondering why he'd even bought it in the first place. With a sigh, Milo got up, stretched, and prepared to start his day.